peeps. Hello. And welcome, this is Brand New Respite Land of the Forbidden Library. And today, I have a spreadsheet that I sometimes have on Sundays. I've been reading again. Oh Lord, she's been reading again. I got comic books for Christmas, so I've read some comic books. I read them today, actually. I had a wonderful day today. It was really chill. I did a good crochet. I can't show you the crochet because it's a present for a friend who will see the crochet if I show you the crochet. So I cannot show you the crochet, but it is a good crochet. You just have to trust me on that. I'm going to take a picture so I can show you after I've given it to them. Anyway, hello everyone! Hello Rahel, hello Normal Size Phantom, hello Void! You're welcome to lurk, have a happy lurk, have a nice chill. Lurking and vodding and not chatting is always welcome on these streams, as well as chatters. We know this. Got your tea and jammy dodgers. Totally ready for some Victorian generational abuse and child abuse. Generational trauma and child abuse. Yay! Yeah. I don't know if I am. I was trying to remember where we're up to, and the last thing I remember is Heathcliff emotionally manipulating baby Kathy into his house because he wants to marry his son off to her. I don't know where, because he wants to own all of the place, which he's going to succeed, since we know in the future he owns Thrushcross Grange, so we know he succeeds. I actually brought some Puka Matcha green tea, thanks to your tea advent calendar shots. They should totally pay you sponsor money. That would be great. I had a friend, when I went to my New Year's party, a friend's girlfriend was like, I loved your tea, thanks! That was so good. Oh, Bernie, Heathcliff appears in another medium that's on your playlist. Yes, he appears in Limbus, I have been told. I look forward to meeting him and seeing if he's just as bad in Limbus. If he lives up to his classical counterpart, that much is for sure. But first, we have things to do. Can you guess what I read today? I'll give you I read the next version, no, I don't want to replace anything. I read something on here, another issue of something on here. Do you know what it is? For 186, I read Sonic Volume 2. Comic. Hello, Exno, welcome. Did you read the Baby Jesus? No, I did not read that. How close are we to the end of Wuthering Heights? We are 68% of the way through, so we're about 30% off, but given we're like stream 9, I would probably say, I don't know. I reckon stream 12 will finish it, so probably 3 or 4 more streams, depending on how sick I am, because there was that one stream where I started reading and then I wasn't feeling very well, so I had to end the stream early. So, I'm not sure. Like I said, I think 7 maybe was right. And then I read volume 3. I read 2 volumes today. Comic. It's pretty much by the same person. I actually don't think Tracy Yardley was in volume 3, but I'm gonna put her on there anyway. She's like the substitute artist they seem to have. It seems like whenever Ian is off, they get Tracy in. And you can definitely tell when the art changes, but it works, it's fine. We're at the part that most the movie adaptations decide to cut off. That makes sense, because I was thinking about the movies that you watched. Oh, we need to label these as 2025 now as well, so I can keep track of that a bit better. So I know what year I read these things. That's 2 more off. So that makes my current book to freedom that. Da-da-da! We're getting there. We'll be at our next 100 in no time. I do not have time to write another short story book for the next 100. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Because I think, like, between Catherine and Heathcliff, that drama is enough to carry any movie. Like, you don't need any more than that. Yeah, the 1939 and the 70s movie all ended when Catherine dies. Only the 1992 one keeps going. Oh, interesting. So I'm going to go back. Oh, Bryony, can you look for a book about Ishmael in your time off? Do you mean the whale book? Not Free. Why is my brain saying Free Willy? That's not the right one. Moby Dick. That's the one. Moby Dick. You mean that one? That was on my list. But I went into the shop, I went in the bookshop, and I saw, like, a physical copy of Moby Dick, and I was like, holy shit, that's a big book. I was like, god damn, how many streams would that take to get through? Your hunch was right? What's your hunch? Moby censored by YouTube. They shouldn't! It's a name! It's a name! We can't talk about Dick Grayson then either, can we? That's just rude. We can't be censored. I'm not sure it's a good stream book. Okie dokie. I'm using stream as an excuse to get more cultured with my reading and read some classics. But I was kind of put off when I saw it so big. Figure it out when you play the gacha. Ah. Yeah, I know there's lots of literature characters in Nimbus. Many literature characters in Nimbus. I'm so... I just need to finish that one boss fight. If I could just beat the distorted fucking guys ensemble, then my life would be so much better. I would... I think everything about my life would be better if I could defeat the distorted ensemble. I can, eventually. And today is not the day to be thinking about that. Today is the day to be thinking about Heathcliff and his continual attempts to fuck up everything. Amethyst Rosemary, thank you so much for the follow. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Anyway, his attempts. So, what did that happen? Yes. So, Catherine finally saw something. Kathy finally saw something of Heathcliff's true colours and sort of the chaos of Wuthering Heights and decided to stay home like the smart girl she is. However, while she was out with Ellen, Heathcliff was like, "Oh, my son, he's dying because of you. You have to see him or he will die." Because he's an asshole like that. Just like goes to this teenage girl and be like, my son is going to kill himself if you do not see him. And that's totally a wonderful basis of any relationship. No, red flags, honey. Go away, but no. No, she's a baby girl. She's like, oh no. I only figured out Limbus had literature characters when my grandma started correcting me on the pronunciation of Don Quixote. Well then, I'm glad you've learned a thing. That's what Don Quixote is also one I'm thinking about. I don't know, there's lots. If anyone has any particular favorites of random literature, you should let me know. Obviously, Dracula as well is a big one. I would like to do Carl Miller as well. I'd like to do the gay Dracula. That would be great too. But yeah, so I think that's basically. I don't think she didn't go with a Don Quixote as a go-to book. I hear so much good things about Don Quixote. And I would like to understand. Great Gatsby might be long now. We can live with long. I mean, Pride and Prejudice took forever. How many streams did we do Pride and Prejudice in the end? I want to check. Sorry, I keep getting very distracted. I am so sorry. But also not. We did 12 streams of Pride and Prejudice. Gay Dracula, you mean the 1980s gay porno? gay Racula. That was a hard word to say. Got the new Dracula coming out soon, and I'm trying to decide if it's too spooky for me to go to. I'm really bad with scary movies, but it's like classic horror, so I'm like, can I get, like, will it be a little bit more okay? Will I be able to stand being in a cinema for it? Because I kind of want to see it, but at the same time, I'm a baby. I really don't know. I'll have to let you know if it happens, if I go, and I'll give you the coward's review of it. Anyway, let's get focused and read some stuff. I only yapped for 15 minutes, that's not bad actually. Read stuff! Chapter 23. I can read Roman numerals. The rainy night had ushered in a misty morning. Half frost, half drizzle, and temporary brooks crossed our path, gurgling from the uplands. My feet were thoroughly wetted. I was crossed and low, exactly the humour suited for making the most of these disagreeable things. We entered the farmhouse by the kitchen way to ascertain whether Mr. Heathcliff was really absent, because I put slight faith in his own affirmation. Joseph seemed sitting in some sort of Elysium alone, beside a roaring fire, a quart of ale on the table near him, bristling with large pieces of toasted oatcake, and his black short pipe in his mouth. Catherine ran to the hearth to warm herself. I asked if the master was in. My question remained so long unanswered that I thought the old man had grown deaf, and repeated louder, "Nay!" he snarled, or rather screamed through his nose. "Nay, you mutt go back where you come from." "Joseph!" I cried, a peevish voice, simultaneously with me from the inner room. "How oft am I to call you? There are only a few red ashes now. Joseph! Come this moment." Vigorous puffs and a resolute stare into a grate declared he had no ear for this appeal. The housekeeper and Hareton were invisible, one gone on errand and the other at his work, probably. We knew Linton's tones and entered. "Oh, I hope you'll die in a garret, starved to death," said the boy, mistaking our approach for that of his negligent attendant. I saw Nosferatu on Christmas. It's great, and the best part is they give Dracula his book accurate massive moustache. Wonderful. How would you rate it from 1 to 5 on a spooky scale? 5 being spookiest. He stopped on observing his error. His cousin flew to him. "Is that you, Miss Linton?" he said, raising his head from his arm. 6.5. That's really spooky! I said from 1 to 5. Or is that a 1 to 10 did you do? Raising his head from his arm of the great chair in which he reclined. "No, don't kiss me. It takes my breath. Dear me, Papa said you would call," continued he, after recovering a little from Catherine's embrace, while she stood by, looking very contrite. "Will you shut the door, if you please? You left it open, and those detestable creatures won't bring coals to the fire. It's so cold." I stirred up the cinders and fetched a scuttleful myself. The invalid complained of being covered with ashes, but he had a tiresome cough, and looked feverish and ill, so I did not rebuke his temper. "Well, Linton," murmured Catherine, when his corrugated brow relaxed. "Are you glad to see me? Can I do you any good?" "Why didn't you come before?" he asked. "You should have come, instead of writing. I tried me dreadfully writing those long letters. I'd far rather have talked to you. Now I can neither bear to talk, nor anything else. I wonder where Zilla is. Will you stop looking at me? Step into the kitchen and see. Will you, looking at me, step into the kitchen and see? Sorry, completely misread that bit. I had received no thanks for my other services, and, being unwilling to run to and fro at his behest, I replied, "Nobody is out there but Joseph." "I want to drink," he exclaimed fretfully, turning away. "Zilla is constantly gadding off to Gimmerton since Papa went. It's miserable, and I'm obliged to come down here. They resolved never to hear me upstairs." "Is your father attentive to you, Master Heathcliff?" I asked, perceiving Catherine to be checked in her friendly advances. "Attentive? He makes them a little more attentive at least," he cried. "The wretches! Do you know, Miss Linton, that brute Hareton laughs at me? I hate him! Indeed, I hate them all. They are odious beings." Oh my god, he's Heathcliff's son, isn't he? This poor boy! Isabella didn't want this for you. Isabella tried to get you away from this, but her health failed her. Kathy began searching for some water. She sighted on a picture in the dresser a filled tumbler, and brought it. He bid her add a spoonful of wine from a bottle on the table, and having swallowed a small portion, appeared more tranquil, and said she was very kind. "And are you glad to see me?" she asked, reiterating her former question, and pleased to detect the faint draw of a smile. "Yes, I am. It's something new to hear a voice like yours," he replied, "but I have been vexed because you wouldn't come, and Papa swore it was owing to me. He called me a pitiful, shuffling, worthless thing, and said you despised me, and if he had been in my place, he would be more the master of the Grange than your father by this time. But you don't despise me, do you, miss?" Oh, Heathcliff. "I wish you would say, Catherine or Kathy, don't," interrupted my... "I wish you would say Catherine or Kathy," interrupted my young lady. "Despise you? No. Next to Papa and Ellen, I love you better than anybody living. I don't love Mr. Heathcliff, though, and I dare not come when he returns. He will stay away many days." "Will he stay away many days?" "Not many," answered Linton, "but he goes on the moors frequently, since the shooting season commenced, and you might spend an hour or two with me in his absence. Do you say you will? I think I should not be peevish with you. You'd not provoke me, and you'd always be ready to help me, wouldn't you?" Oh God, no, Kathy, no! "Yes," said Catherine, stroking his long, soft hair. "If I could only get Papa's consent, I'd spend half my time with you, pretty Linton. I wish you were my brother. And then you would like me as well as your father?" observed he more cheerfully. "But Papa says you would love me better than him in all the world if you were my wife. So I'd rather you were that." No, even though I know it's gonna happen, but no. "No, I should never love anybody better than Papa," she returned gravely. Guess what he's doing on the moors? Shooting, right? And people hate their wives sometimes, but not their sisters and brothers. And if you were the latter, you would live with us, and Papa would be as fond of you as he is of me." No, he's just shooting birds. He's just shooting birds. I don't want to know. Linton denied that people ever hated their wives, but Kathy confirmed they did, and in her wisdom instanced his own father's aversion to her aunt, and endeavoured to stop her thoughtless tongue. I shouldn't succeed till everything she knew was out. Master Heathcliff, much irritated, asserted her relation was false. "Papa told me, and Papa does not tell falsehoods," she answered pertly. She's such a good little daddy's girl. "My Papa scorns yours. He calls him a sneaking fool." "Yours is a wicked man," retorted Catherine, "and you are very naughty to dare repeat what he says. He must be wicked to have made Aunt Isabella leave him, as she did." "She didn't leave him," said the boy. "You shan't contradict me." "She did," cried my young lady. "Well, I'll tell you something," said Linton. "Your mother hated your father. Now then," exclaimed Catherine, too enraged to continue, "and she loved mine," added he. "You little liar! I hate you now!" I fucking love this. This is actually very fun. She panted, and her face grew red with passion. She did! She did!" sang Linton, sinking into the recess of his chair and leaning back his head to enjoy the agitation of the other disputant who stood behind. "Hush! Hush, Master Heathcliff!" I said. "That's your father's tale too, I suppose." "It isn't, hold your tongue," he answered. She did, Catherine, she did. Kathy, besides herself, gave the chair a violent push and caused him to fall against one arm. He was immediately seized by a suffocating cough that soon ended his triumph. It lasted so long that it frightened even me. As to his cousin, she wept with all her might, aghast at the mischief she had done, though she said nothing. I held him till the fit exhausted itself. Then he thrust me away, and leant his head down silently. Catherine quelled her lamentations also, took a seat opposite, and looked solemnly into the fire. "How do you feel now, Master Heathcliff?" I inquired, after waiting 10 minutes. "I wish she felt as I do," he replied. "Spiteful, cruel thing. Hareton never touches me. He never struck me in his life, and I was better today. And there," his voice died in a whimper, "I didn't strike you," muttered Kathy, chewing her lip to prevent another burst of emotion. He sighed and moaned like one under great suffering, and kept it up for a quarter of an hour, on purpose to distress his cousin apparently, for whenever he caught a stifled sob from her, he put renewed pain and pathos on the inflections of his voice. "I'm sorry I hurt you, Linton," she said at length, racked beyond endurance, "but I couldn't have been hurt by that little push, and I had no idea that you could either. You're not much, are you, Linton? Don't let me go home thinking I've done you harm. Answer! Speak to me!" "I can't speak to you. I can't speak to you except to be a mean little bitch. You've hurt me so that I shall lie awake at night choking with this cough. If you had it, you'd know what it was, but you'll be comfortably asleep while I'm in agony, and nobody near me. I wonder how you would like to pass those fearful nights." And he began to wail aloud for very pity of himself. Jesus Christ, give this boy an Oscar. Emotional manipulation, yeah. That was 100% my dad's. My dad's better than your dad. Even though our dads hate each other, it was kind of a love point. Howdy, howdy, welcome. Just in time for the emotional manipulation. Since you're in a habit of passing dreadful nights, I said, it won't be Miss who spoils your ease. You'd be the same had she never come. However, she shall not disturb you again, and perhaps you'll get quieter when we leave you. Must I go? You're on the bus? Chicka, 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 chicka. The wheels on the bus go... Nope. Asked Catherine dolefully, bending over him. Do you want me to go, Linton? You can't alter what you've done. Oh my god, what an edgy little bitch. He has learned the best from Heathcliff. He really has. We're getting oh woe is me. He replied, pettishly shrinking from her. Unless you alter it for the worse by teasing me into a fever. Well then, must I go? She repeated. Let me alone at least. Said he. I can't bear your talking. She lingered and resisted my persuasion to departure a tiresome while, but he neither looked up nor spoke. She finally made a move to the door, and I followed. We were recalled by a scream. Jesus Christ. Linton had slid from his seat onto the hearthstone and lay writhing in the mere perverseness of an indulged plague of a child. Indulged plague of a child. Determined to be as grievous and harassing as it can. I thoroughly gauged his disposition from his behaviour, and saw at once it would be folly to attempt humouring him. Not so my companion. She ran back in terror, knelt down and cried, and soothed and entreated, till he grew quiet from the lack of breath, by no means from computation at distressing her. Jesus Christ. Linton's cringing at the edgy child dialogue. Yes! I shall lift him onto the settle, I said, and he may roll about as he pleases. We can't stop to watch him. I hope you are satisfied, Miss Cathy, that you are not the person to benefit him, and that his condition of health is not occasioned by attachment to you. Now, then, here he is. Come away. As soon as he knows there is nobody by to care for his nonsense, he'll be glad to lie still. I'd like to think Nelly, especially at the moment, is just like, I've seen this before, and I expected it from Cathy, not from him. This is a Catherine special. She placed a cushion under his head and offered him some water. He rejected the latter and tossed uneasily on the former, as if it were a stone or a block of wood. She tried to put it more comfortably. I feel like every generation thinks they invented the every emo teen drama, and here we are. Exactly. Well, because everyone's first experience of edgy emo teen is in teenagers, and it's their only experience of it. How would they know that other people did this? Other people exist outside of their tiny child worlds? No. I can't do with that, he said. It's not high enough. Ugh. Catherine brought another and laid it above. That's too high, he murmured the provoking thing. How must I arrange it, then? She asked despairingly. He twined himself up to her as she half knelt by the settle and converted her shoulder into support. No, that won't do, I said. You'll be content with the cushion, Master Heathcliff. Miss has wasted too much time on you already. We cannot remain 5 minutes longer. Yes, we can, replied Cathy. He's good and patient now. He's beginning to think I shall have far greater misery than he will tonight. If I believe he is the worse for my visit, then I dare not come again. Tell the truth about it, Linton, for I mustn't come. If I have hurt you, you must come to cure me. Ugh. No, leave this girl alone. I'm not like other people. They would never understand the deep, dark emotions, said every generation ever. They all have to learn. They all have to learn. Everyone's gotta have it. Everyone's gotta have some real cringy emotions that they think about in their teenage years and they go, oh my god, why did I do that? It's the human experience. He answered, you ought to come, because you have hurt me. You know you have extremely. I was not as ill when you entered as I am present, was I? Jesus Christ. I can feel Nellie facepalming in assault, she really is. But you've made yourself ill by crying and being in a passion. I didn't do it all, said his cousin. However, we'll be friends now. And you want me. You would wish to see me sometimes? Really? I forget that she's also quite desperate for a friend because she's been so isolated her entire life, so it's not... She's in a horribly vulnerable position for this. I told you I did, he replied impatiently. Sit on the settle and let me lean on your knee. That's as Mama used to do, whole afternoons together. Sit quiet still and don't talk. But you may sing a song, if you can sing, or you may say a nice, long, interesting ballad. One of those you promised to teach me, or a story. I'd rather have a ballad, though. Begin. Jesus Christ, child. Hello. DeLong. I'll call you DeLong. Hello. Welcome. How come you're all so cool, got emo phases in your teen years? All I got was crippling existential dread. Was that not the emo phase? Just because you didn't dress emo. Emo just means a lot of emotions, you know. If you just had a lot of feelings. Good evening and Happy New Year. Welcome, Jumble Hop. Happy New Year. Cool emo phases come in many flavors. Existential dread being one of them. It's like Oreos. Like Oreos. I had my my emo phase was like sitting at my bedroom window and looking out like I was some kind of protagonist from a book who had deep thoughts about the world, but I just didn't know what to do with myself at the time. But obviously I was so cool and important. I just look out at the rain on my window and be like, so deep, bro. Thank you for the follow, Dylan. Thank you. Where were we? Oh yes, this little shit had... I demand lap, pillow, and entertainment. That's what he's just done. Dramatically stares out the window. Yes, that was me as a teenager. My emo phase was, I hate modern music. I only listen to Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. Oh my, I knew a few people like that, definitely. Catherine repeated the longest she could remember. The employment pleased both mightily. Linton would have another, and after that another, notwithstanding my strenuous objections. And so they went on until the clock struck 12, and we heard Hareton in the court returning for his dinner. And tomorrow, Catherine, will you be here tomorrow? Asked young Heathcliff, holding her frock as she rose reluctantly. No, I answered, nor the next day neither. She, however, gave a different response, evidently, for his forehead cleared, as she stooped and whispered in his ear. You won't go tomorrow, recollect, miss, I commenced when we were out of the house. You are not dreaming of it, are you? She smiled. Oh, child. If I could teach a lesson to teenage me, he would just reply that I don't understand what he feels. Yeah. You don't understand what I'm going through, man, even though you are actually me. Hi, Boris, welcome. Oh, well, take good care. I continued. I'll have that lock mended, and you can escape by no way else. I can get over the wall, she said, laughing. The Grange is not a prison, Ellen, and you are not my jailer. And besides, I'm almost 17. I'm a woman, and I'm certain Linton would recover quickly if he had me to look after him. I'm older than he is, you know, and wiser. Less childish, am I not? Oh, silly sweet child, Catherine. And he'll soon do as I direct him, with some slight coaxing. He's a pretty little darling when he's good. I'll make such a pet of him, if he were mine. Oh my god. We should never quarrel, should we? After we were used to each other. Don't you like him, Ellen? Like him? I exclaimed, the worst-tempered bit of a sickly slip that ever struggled into its teens. Oh my god, Nelly. Happily, as Mr. Heathcliff conjectured, he'll not win 20. I doubt he'll see spring. Indeed, a small loss to his family whether he drops off, and luckily it is for us that his father took him. The kinder he was treated, the more tedious and selfish he'd be. I'm glad you have no chance of having him for a husband, Miss Catherine. Oh, you shouldn't have said that. I feel like you've challenged her now. Kathy Toof, please. I know, right? We must do dumb things to learn they were dumb. That is correct. We all had to be cringe at some point to know what cringe truly is. To know what cringe is okay and what cringe is not okay. Less childish is a really low bar. It really is. Nelly is the best one. The only one. My companion waxed serious at hearing this speech. I feel like waxed has come back, hasn't it? As a thing people say. Waxed a verse. I feel like I've been hearing that often. To speak of his death so regardlessly wounded her feelings. He's younger than I, she answered after a protracted pause of meditation. And he ought to live the longest. He will. He must live as long as I do. He's as strong now as when he first came to the north. I'm positive of that. It's only a cold that ails him. The same as Papa has. You say Papa will get better, and why shouldn't he? Oh, you sweet summer child. Well, well, I cried. After all, we needn't trouble ourselves, for listen, miss, and mind, I'll keep my word. If you attempt to go to Wuthering Heights again, with or without me, I shall inform Mr. Linton. And unless he allow it, the intimacy with your cousin must not be received. It has been received, muttered Kathy sulkily. Must not be continued, then. Oh, that's such a kid thing. Well, it has been received. Those particular words are many. You know what I mean, child. You know what I mean. A new YouTube challenge. Don't see other people as lesser beings than you. Everyone in Wuthering Heights has failed. The difference between you and me is when we stared into the depths of cringe, you blinked. I love to see Xavier Renegade Angel wander into this and try to fix everything because it would mostly result in everyone getting killed. Yep, not happening. We'll see, was her reply, and she set off at a gallop, leaving me to toil in the rear. We both reached home. Honestly, I'm surprised Nellie's holding back. I mean, I guess Nellie knows she's going to get punished for letting her go to Wuthering Heights in the first place, but, Kathy comes first. We both reached home before our dinner time. My master supposed we had been wandering through the park, and therefore demanded no explanation of our absence. As soon as I entered, I hastened to change my soaked shoes and stockings. But sitting such a while at the Heights had done the mischief. On the succeeding morning I was laid up, and during 3 weeks I remained incapacitated for attending to my duties. Oh no, Nelly! She got sick at the wrong time! A calamity never experienced prior to that period, and never, am I thankful to say, since. My little mistress behaved like an angel in coming to wait on me, and cheer my solitude. The confinement brought me exceedingly low. It is wearisome to a stirring, active body, but few have slighter reasons for complaint than I had. The moment Catherine left Mr. Linton's room, she appeared at my bedside. Her day was divided between us. No amusement usurped a minute. She neglected her meals, her studies, and her play, and she was the fondest nurse that ever watched. She must have had a warm heart when she loved her father so, to give so much to me. I said her days were divided between us, but the master retired early, and I generally needed nothing after 6 o'clock. Thus the evening was her own, poor thing. I never considered what she did with herself after tea, and though frequently, when she looked in to bid me good night, I remarked a fresh colour in her cheeks and a pinkness over her slender fingers. Instead of fancying the hue borrowed from a cold ride across the moors, I laid it to the charge of a hot fire in the library. Oh, sick Ellen. Felled by a typical English afternoon. It happens. It happens for realsies. Oh, Ellen. Not Ellen. Nelly. Tea and shanking? Oh, it depends on where you live. Depends where in the country you are. Chapter 24. If you live in a big city, probably though. At the close of 3 weeks, I was able to quit my chamber and move about the house. And on the first occasion of my sitting up in the evening, I asked Catherine to read to me, because my eyes were weak. We were in the library, the master having gone to bed. She consented, rather unwillingly, I fancied, and imagining my sort of books did not suit her. I bid her please herself with the choice of what she pursued. She selected one of her own favourites, and got forward steadily about an hour. Then came frequent questions. "Ellen, are you not tired? Hadn't you better lie down now? You'll be sick, keeping up so long, Ellen. Ellen, let me go. I'm going to go sneak out to see my cousin. Ellen, go to bed. Ellen, go to bed. She's as subtle as a brick." No, dear, I'm not tired," I returned continuously. Perceiving me immovable, she essayed another method of showing her disrelish for her occupant. It changed to yawning and stretching and, "Ellen, I'm tired." "Give over then and talk," I answered. That was worse. She fretted and sighed, and looked at her watch till 8, and finally went to her room. She's as determined as Kathy 1, but not as subtle. Yeah, Kathy 2 is still a little bit of an innocent baby. That was worse. She fretted and sighed and looked at her watch till 8, and finally went to her room, completely overdone with sleep. Judging by her peevish, heavy look, and the constant rubbing she inflicted on her eyes, the following night she seemed more impatient still, and on the 3rd, from recovering my company, she complained of a headache, and left me. I thought her conduct odd, and having remained alone a long while, I resolved on going and inquiring whether she were better. I asked her to come and lie on the sofa instead of upstairs in the dark. Nodder MP. This is an ebook. If you want to know what I'm using to read the ebook, though, It's a software called Calibri. It's really good. It displays it nicely for everyone to see. If you just get an EPUB, you can upload it in. And it's very good. I mainly used it because for my own books, you can put a PDF into it and it can convert it into an EPUB, which is very good, very useful for selling online books. Yeah. This is great. You've read it? Wonderful. I'm having a good time with it so far. No, Catherine could, I discover, upstairs, and none below. The servants affirmed they had not seen her. I listened at Mr. Edgar's doorway. All was silence. I returned to her apartment, extinguished my candle, and seated myself in the window. The moon shone bright. A sprinkling of snow covered the ground, and I reflected that she might possibly have taken it into her head to walk about the garden for refreshment. I did detect a figure creeping along the inner fence of the park, but it was not my young mistress. On its emerging into the light, I recognized one of the grooms. He stood a considerable period viewing the carriage road through the grounds, then started off at a brisk pace, as if he had detected something, and reappeared presently, leading Mrs. Pony, and there she was, just dismounting and walking by its side. The man took his charge stealthily across the grass towards the stable. Cathy entered by the casement window of the drawing room and glided noiselessly up to where I awaited her. Oh my god, that move! That move, you know, in all the teen dramas where they get home after sneaking out and they get into their room, they turn the light on and there's their parent. Nellie's just pulling that shit. We're seeing this from the parents' perspective and that's great. She put the door gently to, slipping off her snowy shoes, untied her hat, and was proceeding, unconscious of my espionage, to lay aside her mantle, when I suddenly rose and revealed myself. The surprise petrified her an instant. She uttered an inarticulate exclamation and stood fixed. "Where have you been, young lady?" "My dear Miss Catherine," I began, too vividly impressed by her recent kindness to break into a scold, "where have you been riding out at this hour? And why should you try to deceive me by telling a tale? Where have you been? Speak." To the bottom of the park," she stammered. "I didn't tell a tale." Kids are half as sneaky as they actually think they are. Good to know. It's been with us since the dawn of time. The human experience. And nowhere else?" I demanded. "No," was the muttered reply. "Oh, Catherine," I cried sorrowfully, "you know you have been doing wrong, or you wouldn't be driven to uttering an untruth to me. That does grieve me. I'd rather be 3 months ill than hear you frame a deliberate lie." She sprang forward, bursting into tears, and threw her arms around my neck. "Well, Ellen, I'm so afraid of you being angry," she said. "Promise not to be angry, and you shall know the very truth. I hate to hide it." Oh, what a girl. What a baby girl. What a baby girl. Hi, sweetie. Welcome. We just caught a teenager who snuck out. We sat down in the window seat. I assured her I would not scold, whatever her secret might be. And I guessed it, of course. So she commenced. "I've been to Wuthering Heights, Ellen, and I've never missed going a day since you fell ill, except thrice before and twice after you left your room. I gave Michael books and pictures to prepare Minnie every evening, and to put her back in the stable. You mustn't scold him either, mind. I was at the Heights by 6:30, and generally stayed till 8:30, and then galloped home. It was not to amuse myself that I went. I was often wretched all the time. Now and then I was happy, once in a week perhaps. At first I expected there would be sad work persuading you to let me keep my word to Linton, for I had engaged to call next day, when we quitted him, but as you stayed upstairs on the morrow, I escaped that trouble. While Michael was refastening the lock of the park door in the afternoon, I got possession of the key, and told him how my cousin wished me to visit him, because he was sick, and couldn't come to the Grange, and how Papa would object to my going, and then I negotiated with him about the pony. He is fond of reading, and he thinks of leaving soon to get married, so he offered, if I would lend him books out of the library, to do what I wished, but I preferred giving him my own, and that satisfied him better. On my second visit, Linton seemed in lively spirits, and Zillah, that is their housekeeper, made us a clean room and got a good fire, and told us that, as Joseph was out at a prayer meeting, and Hareton Earnshaw was off with his dogs robbing our woods of pheasants, as I heard afterwards, we might do what we liked. She brought me some warm wine and gingerbread, and appeared exceedingly good-natured, and Linton sat in the armchair, and I in the little rocking chair on the hearthstone, and we laughed and talked so merrily, and found so much to say. We planned where we would go, and what we would do in summer. I needn't repeat that, because you would call it silly. One time, however, we were near quarrelling. He said the pleasantest manner of spending a hot July day was lying from morning till evening on the back of heath in the middle of the moors, with the bees humming dreamily among the bloom, and the larks singing high overhead. Gingerbread is great, whether it be the biscuit or bread with ginger flavour, like ginger cake. Both good. And the blue sky and bright sun shining steadily and cloudlessly. That was his most perfect idea of heaven's happiness. Mine was rocking in a rustling green tree, with a west wind blowing, and bright clouds flitting rapidly above, and not only larks, but throstles and blackbirds and linnets, and cuckoos pouring out music on every side, and the moors seen at a distance, broken into cool dusky dells, but close by great swells of long grass undulating in the waves to the breeze, and woods and sounding water, and the whole world awake and wild with joy. He wanted to lie in an ecstasy of peace. I wanted all to sparkle and dance in the glorious jubilee. I said his heaven would be only half alive, and he said mine would be drunk. Can agree. That does sound a lovely way to spend an afternoon. They both do. Heaven to them is touching grass, truly different times. They didn't have video games like we did. Touching grass was all they had. I said I should fall asleep in his, and he said he could not breathe in mine, and began to grow very snappish. At last we agreed to try both, as soon as the right weather came, and then we kissed each other and were friends, 'cause friends kiss at this time. After sitting an hour, I looked at the great room with its smooth and carpeted floor, and thought how nice it would be to play in if we removed the table, and I asked Linton to call Zillah in to help us, and we'd have a game of blind man's bluff. She should try to catch us. You used to, you know, Ellen. He wouldn't. There was no pleasure in it, he said, but he consented to play at ball with me. We found two in a cupboard among a heap of old toys, tops and hoops, and battledores and shuttlecocks. One was marked C and the other was marked H. Oh, no VTubers back then. I know, right? Literally, touching grass was all they had. There was no VTubers. Heathcliff and Catherine. I wished to have the C because it stood for Catherine, and the H might be for Heathcliff, his name, but the bran came out of the H, and Linton didn't like it. I beat him constantly, and he got cross again, coughed, and returned to his chair. That night, though, he easily recovered his good humour. He was charmed with 2 or 3 pretty songs. Your songs, Ellen. And when I was obliged to go, he begged and entreated me to come the following evening, and I promised. Minnie and I went flying home as light as air, and I dreamt of Wuthering Heights and my sweet darling cousin till morning. Carpeted bathroom, carpeted toilets, carpeted terribleness. We can't deal with carpeted bathrooms, no. I don't think any bathroom will ever beat that Edith Finch bathroom, though. That was literally the worst thing on the planet. On the morrow, I said partly because ye were poorly, and partly that I wished my father knew, and approved of my excursions, but it was beautiful moonlit after tea, and I rode on. The gloom cleared. I shall have another happy evening, I thought to myself, and what delights me more, my pretty Linton will. I trotted up their garden, and was turning round the back, when that fellow Earnshaw met me. He took my bridle, and bid me to go in by the front entrance. He patted Minnie's neck, and said she was a bonny beast, and appeared as if he wanted me to speak to him. I only told him to leave my horse alone, or else it would kick him. He answered in his vulgar accent, "It wouldn't do much if it did," and surveyed its legs with a smile. I was half inclined to make it try. However, he moved off to open the door, and, as he raised the latch, he looked up to the inscription above, and said with a stupid mixture of awkwardness and elation, "Miss Catherine, I can read yon now." "Wonderful!" I exclaimed. "Pray let us hear. You are grown clever." He spelt and drawled over by syllables the name Hareton Earnshaw. "And the figures?" I cried encouragingly, perceiving that he came to a dead halt. "I can't tell 'em yet," he answered. "Oh, you dunce. Oh, yeah, let's bully the guy who doesn't read very well." Oh, how lovely. "Carpeted toilet, but the carpeting is inside the bowl." How dare you curse us with pictures like this normal size phantom? That's just feckin' rude. The fool stared with a grin hovering about his lips and a scowl gathering over his eyes, as if uncertain that he might not join my mirth, whether he were not pleasant familiarity or what it really was, contempt. Yeah. I settled his doubts by suddenly retrieving my gravity and desiring him to walk away, for I came to see Linton, not him. He reddened, I saw that by the moonlight, dropped his hands from the latch and sulked off, a picture of mortified vanity. He imagined himself to be accomplished as Linton, I suppose because he could spell his own name, and was marvellously discomfited that I didn't think the same. Hareton. Hareton's a sad old existence, isn't he? That was a war crime. It is. "Stop, Miss Catherine, dear," I interrupted. "I shall not scold you, but I don't like your conduct there. If you had remembered that Hareton was your cousin, as such as Master Heathcliff, you would have felt how improper it was to behave in that way. At least it was praiseworthy ambition for him to desire to be as accomplished as Linton, and probably he did not learn merely to show off.
You had made him ashamed of his ignorance before, I have no doubt, and he wished to remedy it, and please you. To sneer at his imperfect attempt was very bad breeding. Had you been brought up in his circumstance, would you be less rude? He was as quick and as intelligent a child as you ever were, and I'm hurt that you should despise him now, because that base Heathcliff has treated him so unjustly. Well, Ellen, you wouldn't cry about it, will you? She exclaimed, surprised at my earnestness. I regret nothing. Mods installed carpet in Phantom's kitchen and bathroom. Do it! Do it! You shall hear if he conned his ABC to please me, and if it were worth while being civil to the brute. I entered. Linton was lying on the settle, and half got up to welcome me. I'm ill tonight, Catherine love, he said, and you must have all the talk, and let me listen. Come and sit by me. I was sure you wouldn't break your word, and I'll make you promise again before you go. You sent me something in the DMs. Let me have a look. Let me have a look. Nellie's truth bombs. What you sending me? What is this? Open. Nitro for a month. Aw, thanks, maiden. Appreciate it. I also never thanked you for boosting my server. I do appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. I forgot that I never thanked you for that. I will accept. Da, da, da. I need to go. Share thing. Late Christmas present. Ah, yes, sweetie. I need to go on your throne soon then. Oh no, I can do something else. Yeah, I should do something. Yeah, okay. We must carpet every bit of Phantom Zone. That's what we call carpet bombing. I knew now that I mustn't tease him, as he was ill, and I spoke softly and put no questions and avoided irritating him in any way. The drama in this book is off the charts. It really is. Yeah, Happy Christmas, Merry New Year! I had brought some of my nicest books for him. He asked me to read a little of one, and I was about to comply when Earnshaw burst the door open. Having gathered venom with reflection, he advanced directly to us, seized Linton by the arm, and swung him off his seat. Hi, I'm Nellie, and welcome to Wuthering Heights. Carpets the town with truth bombs. Get to thy own room, he said in a violent, almost inarticulate. He said in a voice almost inarticulate with passion, and his face looked swelled and furious. Take her there, if she comes to see thee. Thou shalt keep me out of this. Begone with ye both. Oh, they're in his room. He swore at us and left Linton no time to answer, nearly throwing him into the kitchen, and he clenched his fist as I followed, seemingly longing to knock me down. I was afraid for a moment, and I let one volume fall. He kicked it after me and shut us out. I heard a malignant, crackly laugh by the fire, and turning, beheld that odious Joseph standing, rubbing his bony hands and quivering. I were sure he'd stare you out. He's a grand lad. He's getting to great set, but in him. He knows, the knolls as well as I do. Who'd sud be to master yonder? He made you skip properly. Joseph, what the fuck? Where must we go? I asked my cousin, disregarding the old wretch's mockery. Every time someone says they burst into the room, I just imagine them doing a Kool-Aid man with a bar. Linton was white and trembling. He was not pretty then, Ellen, oh no. He looked frightful, for his thin face and large eyes were wrought into an expression of frantic, powerless fury. He grasped the handle of the door and shook it. It was fastened inside. "If you don't let me in, I'll kill you! If you don't let me in, I'll kill you!" He rather shrieked than said. "Devil! Devil! I'll kill you! I'll kill you!" said the sick boy to the rather muscular young lad. Joseph uttered his croaking laugh. That's the father," he cried. "That's father. All's Alum's summit o' either side of us. Niver heed Ayrton. Lad done it, be feared. He can get at thee." I can translate that somewhat of, he's Ayrton, don't worry. He's just his father's son, just threatening you. One of the advantages of watching the movies was hearing Joseph speak in an intelligible accent. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't. Joseph's impossible. Posture check. Oh, okay, posture checked. And ruined instantly. I took a hold of Linton's hands and tried to pull him away, but he shrieked so shockingly that I dared not proceed. At last his cries were choked by a dreadful fit of coughing. Blood gushed from his mouth and he fell on the ground. I ran into the yard sick with terror and called for Zillah as soon as I could. She soon heard me. She was milking the cows in the shed behind the barn. And hurrying from her work, she inquired what there was to do. I hadn't breath to explain, dragging her in. I looked about for Linton. Earnshaw had come out to examine the mischief he had caused, and he was then conveying the poor thing upstairs. Zillah and I ascended after him, but he stopped me at the top of the steps and said I shouldn't go in. I must go home. I exclaimed that he had killed Linton, and I would enter. Joseph locked the door and declared I should do no such stiff, and asked me whether I were born to be as mad as him. They hire Bridie to double the movies. No, if they could, I'd do it. I'd do it, because they'd pay me. That's true. If you can understand Joseph, is it really Joseph? I stood crying till the housekeeper reappeared. She affirmed he would be better in a bit, but he couldn't do with that. Ellen, I was ready to tear my hair off my head. I sobbed and wept that my eyes were almost blind, and the ruffian you have such sympathy with stood opposite, presuming every now and then to bid me whist, and denying that it was his fault. And finally, frightened by my assertion that I would tell Papa, and that he should be in prison and hanged, he commenced blubbering himself, and hurried out to hide his cowardly agitation. Still, I was not rid of him. When at length they compelled me to depart, I had got some 100 yards off the premises, he suddenly issued from the shadows of the roadside, and checked Minnie, and took a hold of me. Miss Catherine, I'm ill grieved, he began, but it's rather too bad. Rather? Blubbering. It's released the bride. I mean, Margot Robbie is making another adaptation due next year, so you've got a shot. Oh my god. I'll get on social media and be like, hey, I do the best Joseph voices, can we do dub? And then just send her clips. I need a drink. Blech. My ability to talk just like disappeared for a hot moment there. I gave him a cut with my whip, thinking perhaps he would murder me. He let go, thundering one of his horrid curses, and I galloped home more than half out of my senses. I didn't bid you good night that evening, and I didn't go to Wuthering Heights the next. I wished to go exceedingly, but I was strangely excited, and dreaded to hear that Linton was dead. Sometimes shuddered at the thought of encountering Hareton. On the third day I took courage, at least I couldn't bear longer suspense, and stole off once more. I went at 5 o'clock and walked, fancying I might manage to creep into the house, and up to Linton's room unobserved. However, the dogs gave notice of my approach. Zillah received me, and saying the lad was mending nicely, showing me into a small, tidy, carpeted apartment, where, to my inexpressible joy, I beheld Linton laid on a little sofa, reading one of my books. But he would neither speak to me, nor look at me, through the whole hour. Ellen, he has such an unhappy temper, and what quite confounded me when he did open his mouth, what it was to utter the falsehood that I had occasioned the uproar, and Hareton was not to blame. Unable to reply, except passionately, I got up and walked from the room. He sent after me a feint. "Catherine!" He did not reckon on being answered so, but I would turn back. And the morrow was the second day on which visit I stayed at home, nearly determined to visit him no more. But it was so miserable going to bed and getting up and never hearing anything about him. Oh, hello, Richter. A maiden seems to have kidnapped you in here. That's fine. I hope you like listening to reading drama. Wuthering Heights. Yep, the gaslighting classics. But it was so miserable. It melted into the air before it was properly formed. It had appeared wrong to take the journey once, but it seemed wrong to refrain. Michael came to ask if he must saddle Minnie. I said yes, and considered myself doing a duty as she bore me over the hills. I was forced to pass the front windows to get to the court. It was no use trying to conceal my presence. "Oh, you silly girl. Silly girl." She blindsided me and put me in a box. I hope it's a comfy box. Thank you for the subscribing. As you can see, my alerts are a mess, but thank you for subscribing. That's a New Year's resolution. I need to fix my alerts. "Young master is in the house," said Zillah, as she saw me making for the parlour. I went in. Earnshaw was also there, but he quitted the room directly. Linton sat in the great armchair, half asleep, waking up to the fire. I began in a serious tone, partly meaning it to be true. "As you don't like me, Linton, and as you think I come on purpose to hurt you, I pretend that I do so every time. This is our last meeting. Let us say goodbye, and tell Heathcliff that you have no wish to see me, and that he mustn't invent any more falsehoods on the subject." I mean, I'll open the box. You're free to go when you like, but you can also stay. The fire's warm. It's comfortable. "Sit down and take your hat off, Catherine," he answered. "You are so much happier than I am. You ought to be better. Papa talks enough of my defects and shows enough scorn of me to make it natural I should doubt myself. I doubt whether I am not altogether as worthless as he calls me frequently." and I feel so cross and bitter. I hate everybody. I am worthless, and bad in temper, and bad in spirit, almost always, and if you choose, you may say goodbye. You'll get rid of an annoyance. Only, Catherine, do me this justice. Believe that if I might be as sweet and as kind and as good as you are, I would be as willingly and more so than as happy and as healthy and there's so many ands in this book. He's trapped in your dungeon, he can't leave. Oh god, we need to have a jailbreak. We need to free the prisoners of the northern dungeon. Do stay with us, we have carpeted toilets. Yep, carpeted toilets. But also tea. And believe that your kindness has made me love you deeper than if I deserved your love. And though I couldn't and cannot help showing my nature to you, I regret it and repent it, and shall regret and repent it till I die. I felt he spoke the truth. I felt I must forgive him, because I am a stupid young girl who needs better, who needs to do better. Who needs to recognize some red flags when she sees them. Because he's a walking red flag, bro. I must forgive him again. We reconciled, but we cried, both of us, the whole time I stayed. Not entirely for sorrow, yet I was sorry Linton had that distorted nature. He'll never let his friends be at ease. And he'll never be at ease himself. I have always gone to his little parlour since that night, because his father returned the day after. About 3 times, I think, we have been merry and hopeful, as we were the first meeting. The rest of my visits were dreary and troubled, now with his selfishness and spite, and now with his sufferings, but I've learned to endure the former with nearly as little resentment as the latter. Oh no, she's been officially indoctrinated. He's officially made her forget the abuse. That's terrible. Carpeted toilets, carpeted sinks, carpeted walls, carpeted roofs, carpeted... If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire Heathcliff. I feel like Heathcliff would... He would be good at jail. I feel like Heathcliff would be good at anything you need violence for. Or generally if you need people dead, that would be a great job for Heathcliff. About 3 times, I think, we have been merry and hopeful, as we were... Mr. Heathcliff purposely avoids me. I have hardly seen him at all. Last Sunday, indeed, coming earlier than usual, I heard him abusing poor Linton cruelly for his conduct of the night before. I can't tell how he knew of it, unless he listened. Linton had certainly behaved provokingly. However, it was the business of nobody but me, and I interrupted Mr. Heathcliff's lecture by entering and telling him so. He burst into a laugh and went away, saying he was glad that I took that view on the matter. Since then, I've told Linton he must whisper his bitter things. Now, Ellen, you have heard all. I can't be prevented from going to Wuthering Heights, except by inflicting misery on 2 peoples. Whereas, if you'll only not tell Papa, my going needs disturb the tranquillity of none. You'll not tell, will you? It will be heartless if you do. Heathcliff would be good at everything, provided he was really angry at whatever he needed to accomplish. No, elusive aubergine man. Heathcliff, no. Heathcliff, no. Stop abusing children into getting married so that you can have property. I thought it over aloud, in my master's presence, walking straight from her room to his, and relating the whole story, with the exception of her conversations with her cousin and any mention of Hareton. Mr. Linton was alarmed and distressed, more than he would acknowledge to me. In the morning, Catherine learned of my betrayal of her confidence, and she learnt also that her secret visits were to end. In vain she wept and writhed against the interdict, and implored her father to have pity on Linton. All she got to comfort her was a promise that he would write and give him leave to come to the Grange when he pleased, but explaining that he must no longer expect to see Catherine at Wuthering Heights. Perhaps, had he been aware of his nephew's disposition and state of health, he would have seen fit to withhold even a slightest consolation. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Chapter 25. These things happened last winter, sir. Ah, so we're getting really close to where we are. So we know that Linton's gonna die very soon then. Hardly more than a year ago. Oh, so Linton literally only very recently died. I did not think at another 12 months' end I should be amusing a stranger to the family with relating them. Yet, who knows how long you'll be a stranger? You're too young to rest always contented, living by yourself. And I, some way, fancy no one could see Catherine Linton and not love her. You smile, but why would you look so lively and interested when I talk about her? And why have you asked me to hang her picture over your fireplace, and why... Stop, my good friend, I cried. It may be very possible that I should love her. Bro, have you not been listening to the story? Catherine Linton is crazy. All the Catherines are. Everyone here is crazy. Do not fall in love with anyone at Wuthering Heights. Do not fall in love with anyone at Wuthering Heights. Do not fall in love with anyone at Wuthering Heights. That's like a higher rule. There's like, do not fall in love with anyone at Wuthering Heights. And then below that, don't stick your dick in crazy. It may be very possible that I should love her, but why would she love me? I doubt it too much to venture my tranquillity by running into temptation. And then my house is not here. I am of the busy world, and to its arms I must return. Go on, was Catherine obedient to her father's commands? What if the people there are cute? Have standards! Wuthering Heights is a standard... the bar is in hell if you go for anyone in Wuthering Heights. Remember this guy who first saw Heathcliff and was like, oh boy, a kindred spirit just like me. Oh yeah, that's what he did think of Heathcliff. Oh yeah. Oh no. Oh no. She was, continued the housekeeper, her affection for him was still the chief sentiment in her heart, and he spoke without anger. He spoke in the deep tenderness of one about to leave his treasure amid perils and foes, where his remembered words would be the only aid that he could bequeath to guide her. He said to me a few days afterwards, I wish my nephew would write, Ellen, or call. Tell me sincerely, what do you think of him? Is he changed for the better? Or is there a prospect of improvement as he grows a man? He's very delicate, sir, I replied, and scarcely likely to reach manhood. But this I can say, he does not resemble his father, and if Miss Catherine had the misfortune to marry him, he would not be beyond her control, unless she were extremely and foolishly indulgent. However, master, you'll have plenty of time to get acquainted with him and see whether he would suit her. It wants 4 years or more to his being of age. And then 3 hours later, he was like, get the fuck out of here. But then he got stuck. And then he got haunted by Catherine number 1. Edgar sighed. Walking to the window, looked out towards Gimmerton Kirk. It was a misty afternoon, but the February sun shone dimly, and we could just distinguish the 2 fir trees in the yard, and the sparsely scattered gravestones. There's something about listening to your book being read in a British accent which makes the story more intriguing. Yay! British accent hacks! Got grabbed by the ghoulies, as they say. Indeed he did. Edgar sighed and I just read that one. I've prayed often. He half sequilified. I know that word. Sequilified. For the approach of what is coming. And now I begin to shrink in fear of it. I thought the memory of the hour I came down that glen a bridegroom would be less sweet than the anticipation that I was soon, in a few months, or possibly weeks, to be carried up and laid in its lonely hollow. Ellen, I've been very happy with my little Cathy. Woo! I'm only 3D on Sundays. Mostly I'm 2D. But I do like doing 3D on every so often because I can. Because it's so much easier to take advantage of the 3D when you're not holding a controller. So if I'm reading, 3D. I do in fact have a northern accent. I do not have the British English accent, which is the typical one you would think of when you think of a British accent. Nah, I ain't like that. I'm more scarce. Not quite scarce, but a little scarce. The grieving ghoulish ghost girl grabbed him. Oh. 10 out of 10. Only a little scarce. Ellen, I've been very happy with my little Cathy. The winter nights and summer days, she was a living hope at my side. But I've been as happy musing myself among those stones under that old church, lying through the long June evenings on the green mound of her mother's grave, and wishing, yearning for the time when I might lie beneath it. What can I do for Cathy? How must I quit her? I do not care one moment for Linton being Heathcliff's son, nor for his taking her from me, if I could console her for my loss. I do not care that Heathcliff gained his ends and triumphed in robbing me of my last blessing, but should Linton be unworthy, only a feeble tool to his father, I cannot abandon her to him. And hard though it be to crush her buoyant spirit, I must persevere in making her sad while I live, and leaving her solitary when I die. Darling, I'd rather resign her to God, and lay her in the earth before me. Resign her to God as it is, sir, I answered, and if we should lose you, which may, he forbid, under his province, I'll stand her friend and counsellor to the last. Miss Catherine is a good girl. I don't fear that she will go wilfully wrong, and people who do their duty are always finally rewarded. Spring advanced, yet master gathered no real strength, though he resumed his walks in the grounds with his daughter. To her inexperienced notions, this itself was a sign of convalescence. And then his cheek was often flushed, and his eyes were bright. She felt sure of his recovering, On her 17th birthday, he did not visit the churchyard. It was raining, and I observed. "You'll surely not go out tonight, sir?" He answered, "No, I'll defer it this year a little longer." He wrote again to Linton expressing his great desire to see him, and had the invalid been presentable, I've no doubt his father would have permitted him to come. As it was, being instructed, he returned an answer, imitating that Mr. Heathcliff's object to his calling at the Grange. But his uncle's kind remembrance delighted him, and he hoped to meet him sometime in his rambles, and personally to petition that his cousin and he might not remain so long utterly divided. That part of his letter was simple, and probably his own. Heathcliff knew that he could plead eloquently for Catherine's company then. "I do not ask," he said, "that she may visit here, but I am never to see her, because my father forbids me to go to her home, and you forbid her to come to mine. Do now and then ride with her towards the Heights, and let us exchange a few words in your presence. We have done nothing to deserve this separation, and you are not angry with me. You have no reason to dislike me. You allow yourself, dear uncle. Send me a kind note tomorrow, and leave to join you anywhere you please, except at Thrushcross Grange. I believe an interview would convince you that I am my father's character, that my father's character is not mine. He affirms I am more your nephew than his son, and though I have faults which render me unworthy of Catherine, she has excused them, and for her sake you shall also. You inquire after my health. It is better, while I remain cut off from all hope, and doomed to solitude or the society of those who never did and never will like me. How can I be cheerful and well?" Edgar, though he felt for the boy, could not consent to grant his request, because he could not accompany Catherine. He said in summer perhaps they might meet. Meantime he wished to continue writing at intervals, and engaged to give him what advice and comfort he was able by letter. Being well aware of his hard disposition in his family, Linton complied, and had been under restraint would probably have spoiled all by filling his epistles with complaints and lamentations, but his father kept a sharp watch over him, and, of course, insisted on every line that my master sent being shown. So, instead of penning his particular personal sufferings and distresses, the themes constantly uppermost in his thoughts, he harped on the cruel obligation of being held asunder from his friend and love, and gently intimidated that Linton must allow an interview soon, or he should fear that he was purposely deceiving him with empty promises. Cathy was a powerful ally at home, and between them at length persuaded my master to acquiesce in their having a ride or walk together about once a week, under my guardianship, and on the moors nearest the Grange. For June I found him still declining. Though he had set aside a yearly portion of his income for my young lady's fortune, he had a natural desire that she might retain, or at least return in short time, to the house of her ancestors, and he considered her only prospect of doing that was a union with his heir. He had no idea that the latter was failing almost as fast as himself, nor had anyone. I believe no doctor visited the Heights, nor no one else saw Master Heathcliff to make report of his condition among us. I, for my part, began to fancy my forebodings were false, and that he must be actually rallying when he mentioned riding and walking on the moors, and seemed so earnest in pursuing his object. I could not picture a father treating a dying child as tyrannically and wickedly as I afterwards learned Heathcliff had treated him, to compel his apparent eagerness, his efforts redoubling the more intimately his avaricious and unfeeling plans were threatened with a defeat by death. You're gonna die soon? Not until you marry this bitch. Come on, hurry up. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Chapter 26. Summer was already past its prime when Edgar reluctantly yielded his assent to their entreaties, and Catherine and I set out on our first ride to join her cousin. It was a close, sultry day, devoid of sunshine, but with a sky too dappled and hazy to retain rain, and our place of meeting had been fixed at the guidestone by the crossroads. On arriving there, however, a little herd boy dispatched a messenger, told us that Master Linton were on this side the heights, and he'd be much obliged for us to gang a bit further. Then Master Linton has forgotten the first injunction of his uncle, I observed. He bid us keep on the Grange land, and here we are, off at once. Well, we'll turn our horses, heads round, and when we reach him, answered my companion, our excursion shall lie towards home. But then we reached him, and that was scarcely a quarter-mile from his own door. He found he had no horse, and we were forced to dismount and leave ours to graze. He lay on the heath awaiting our approach, and did not rise till we came within a few yards. Then he walked feebly and looked so pale that I immediately exclaimed, "Why, Master Heathcliff, you are not fit for enjoying a ramble this morning. How ill you look!" Catherine surveyed him with grief and astonishment. She changed the ejaculation of joy on her lips to one of alarm, and the congratulation on their long-postponed meeting to an anxious inquiry whether he were worse than usual. "No, better," he panted, trembling, and retaining her hand as if he needed its support, while his large blue eyes wandered timidly over her, the hollowness round them transforming to haggard wildness the languid expression they once possessed. But you have been worse, persisted his cousin. "Worse than when I last saw you. You are thinner, and—" "I'm tired," he interrupted hurriedly. "It's too hot for walking. Let us rest here, and in the morning I often feel sick. Papa says I grow so fast." Badly satisfied, Cathy sat down, and he reclined beside her. This is something like your paradise," said she, making an effort at cheerfulness. "You recollect the 2 days we agreed to spend in the place, away each thought pleasantest? This is nearly yours, only there are clouds, but then they are so soft and mellow. It is nicer than sunshine. Next week, if you can, we'll ride down the Grange Park and try mine." Linton did not appear to remember what she was talking of, and he had evidently great difficulty in sustaining any kind of conversation. His lack of interest in the subject she started, and his equal incapacity to contribute to her entertainment, was so obvious that she could not conceal her disappointment. An indefinite alteration had come over his whole person and manner. The pettishness that might be caressed into fondness had yielded to a listless apathy. There was less of the peevish temper of a child which frets and teases on purpose to be soothed, and more of the self-absorbed moroseness of a confirmed invalid, repelling consolation and ready to regard the good-humoured mirth of others as an insult. Catherine perceived, as well as I did, that he held it rather a punishment than a gratification to endure our company, and she made no scruple of proposing presently to depart. That proposal unexpectedly roused Linton from his lethargy, and threw him into a strange state of agitation. He glanced fearfully towards the heights, begging she would remain another half-hour at least.
"Because otherwise my father might kill me. Please don't leave. Please marry me. Otherwise my father will kill me." Quite literally.
"But I think," said Cathy, "you'd be more comfortable at home than sitting here. And I cannot amuse you today, I see. By my tales and songs and chatter, you have grown wiser than I in these 6 months. You have little taste for my diversions now, or else, if I could amuse you, I'd willingly stay." "Stay to rest yourself."
Drink.
"Stay to rest yourself," he replied, "and Catherine, don't think or say that I'm very unwell. It is the heavy weather and the heat that make me dull, and I walked about before you came, a great deal for me. Tell Uncle I'm in tolerable health, will you? Please, please." Oh, this poor boy. This poor everyone. This whole thing. "I'll tell him you say so, Linton." "I couldn't affirm that you are," observed my young lady, wondering at his pretentious assertion of what was evidently an untruth. "And to be here again next Thursday," continued he, shunning her puzzled gaze, "and give him my thanks for permitting you to come. My best thanks, Catherine. And if you did meet my father, and he asked you about me, don't lead him to suppose that I've been extremely silent and stupid. Don't look sad and downcast as you are doing. He'll be angry." "I care nothing for his anger," exclaimed Cathy, imagining she would be its object. "But I do," said her cousin, shuddering. "Don't provoke him against me, Catherine, for he is very hard." At the beginning of those books, I kept thinking, surely Heathcliff won't get away with all this. Now I'm at the point of, by Jove, he's actually gonna get... He is! We've seen it! We know he gets away with it! Because we know that our main character is renting from him, and it's awful. He is severe to you, Master Heathcliff?" I inquired. "Has he grown weary of indulgence and passed from passive to active hatred?" Linton looked at me, but did not answer, and after keeping her seat by his side another 10 minutes, during which his head fell drowsily on his breast, and he uttered nothing except suppressed moans of exhaustion or pain, Cathy began to seek solace in looking for bilberries and sharing the produce of her researches with me. She did not offer them to him, for she saw further notice would only weary and annoy. Is it half an hour now, Ellen?" she whispered in my ear at last. "I can't tell where we should stay. He's asleep, and Papa will be wanting us back." "Well, we must not leave him asleep," I answered. "Wait till he wakes and be patient. You were mighty eager to set off, but your longing to see poor Linton has soon evaporated." "Why did he wish to see me?" returned Catherine. In his crossest humours, formerly, I liked him better than I do in his present curious mood. It's as if it were a task he was compelled to perform, this interview, for I fear his father should scold him, but I'm hardly going to come to give Mr. Heathcliff pleasure, whatever reason he may have for ordering Linton to undergo this penance. And though I'm glad he's better in health, I'm sorry he's so much less pleasant, and so much less affectionate to me. You think he is in better health then? I said. Yes, she answered, because he always made such a great deal of his sufferings, you know. He is not tolerably well, as he told me to tell Papa, but he is better, very likely. He doesn't have the energy to play it up anymore, basically. There you differ with me, Miss Cathy, I remarked. I should conjecture him to be far worse. You're right, I forgot about the beginning. This is Heathcliff's cask of Amatillo. Amontillado. With the whole time. Yes, yes it is. Linton here started from his slumber in bewildered terror, and asked if anyone called his name. No, said Catherine, unless in dreams. I cannot conceive how you manage to doze out of doors in the morning. I thought I heard my father, he gasped, glancing up and frowning Nab above us. You are sure nobody spoke? Quite sure, replied his cousin. Only Ellen and I were disputing concerning your health. Are you truly stronger, Linton, than when we separated in the winter? If you be, I'm certain one thing is not stronger. Your regard for me. Speak. Are you? Tears gushed from Linton's eyes as he answered. Oh, he's in so much pain and he's so tired. But he has to pretend. Yes, I am. And still under the spell of the imaginary voice, his gaze wandered up and down to detect its owner. Cathy rose. For today we must part, she said. And I won't conceal that I have been sadly disappointed with our meeting, though. I'll mention it to nobody but you. Not that I stand in a way of Mr. Heathcliff. Yeah, he's got nothing left to lose. As soon as Catherine died, he had nothing. Hush, murmured Linton. For God's sake, hush, he's coming. And he clutched to Catherine's arms, striving to detain her. But at the announcement, she hastily disengaged herself and whistled to Minnie, who obeyed her like a dog. I'll be here next Thursday, she cried, springing into a saddle. Goodbye. Quick, Ellen, run! Father, I'm dying. Please stop using me as an instrument for your vengeance. Heathcliff, never! Before we reached home, Catherine's displeasure softened into a perplexed sensation of pity and regret, largely blended with vague, uneasy doubts about Linton's actual circumstances, physical and social, in which I partook. I counselled her not to say much, for a second journey would make us better judges. My master requested an account of our ongoings. His nephew's offering of thanks was duly delivered, Miss Catherine gently touching on the rest. I also threw a little light on his inquiries, for I hardly knew what to hide and what to reveal. Oh, it's nearly the end of the stream. We might have to stop there for now. Seems like a good place to stop and be upset. Because, good lord, it just gets worse. And we know this is like the summer before the main character turned up. Who, because it says I don't really know the name. It's been a long time since we've heard the name. So we know in this summer and then the winter coming, Linton's gonna die. Heathcliff Jr. is gonna die, but he will marry Catherine beforehand. And then she'll be widowed. which leads to the very awkward situation that he stumbled upon at the start, which makes a lot of sense. But I'm like, there's 25% still of the book left. We've got a quarter of the book left. We're 3/4 of the way through. What's gonna happen after that? Good lord, it gets worse. The short version, yeah. Our main character's main contribution to the story is sitting and staring. Yes, his main contribution to the story is getting Nelly to tell us the story. What gets me about these is that I love kind of back in this time, in this sort of level of narration and storytelling we've got, is that the authors don't care if people are speaking realistically. They're more interested in telling the story and describing scenes than realistic dialogue. We're quite obsessed in this day and age in having a realistic-esque dialogue. Oh, why would a person ever say that? Why would they ever describe themselves like that? This doesn't give a shit. The way, like, when Kathy was giving her play-by-play, and she, like, describes each room and all these things, like, it's just so funny. We've flipped a little bit on that in our future writings. The age before postmodernism, exactly. It's more theatrical. Yes. They don't care whether it's realistic. They almost don't care whether the characters are realistic. It's I have the story to tell. I also think the pacing is different as well. I've said this before, but I love how the story relies on Nelly remembering the past 30 years of her life in vivid detail. And she does. You're right, and it's very silly, and it's wonderful, but very silly. Like, you think about this for more than 2 seconds, and it's like, I don't know if that makes sense. But I don't care. It's great. We're here for the telenovela nonsense. I think because, like, a lot of it, like, it doesn't have... Because it's Victorian time, all you have is word of mouth. It's all we've got to tell a story. If this was a more modern setting, we could maybe do things like... digital diaries could have been written. We could have videos, photographs that could have been used. Whereas this, we have, like, a painting of Catherine. And all sorts of things like that. So they have such weird and wonderful ways to, like, do flashbacks or remind us some things. Don't we love looking at historical things and showing us... It's How I Met Your Mother all over again, it is! People had longer attention spans before gacha games. You're true. Before gacha games and TikTok stole us of our attention spans. I love reading old classics. Maybe that's why it's so theatrical. She's just a theater kid. Maybe she's been a servant her whole life, but maybe she's always dreamed of the stage. Who knows? All I do know is that it is unfortunately the end of the stream. If you did enjoy this wonderful, theatrical, silly, amazing book, and you enjoyed me reading it, I would highly appreciate it if you would leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are on YouTube, and if you are on Twitch, if you could give the channel a cheeky follow. Thank you so much for everyone who did today. That's really nice of you. Thank you. I feel like this would have been helped by Heathcliff probably ranting about the wrongs he's done. Obviously, the poor man is a victim in every circumstance. Oh my god. This whole book, from just, like, Heathcliff's point of view, I'd love to be in Heathcliff's head through this book. That would be terrifying. You're reading the Jean Forciance Chronicles, which mostly relies on second-hand accounts of the 100-Year War. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. So, but for now, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone in chat. Thank to anyone who liked. Thank to anyone who watches the VOD. I really appreciate you coming no matter which way you do. If you've left that like and you've subscribed and you've followed on the Twitch, and you've gone into the Discord, and you've like gone into there, and you've done everything you can to support me in every possible way. And you want to support me more, then unfortunately at that point you got to get the bank account out. You got to do some bank account things. And those bank account things you can do is the Patreon, where you can get stories, exclusive streams, merch discounts, and free books. There is YouTube membership, where you can get emotes, exclusive streams, Discord channel, and merch discounts. There's the Kofi, where if you like my emotes and you would like me to draw some for you, you can commission me to do so. And there is more audiobooks in the store. Last but not least is my merch store, where you can get you books, first edition copies of books I've written, a notebook, and a pillow. And in February, you'll be able to get some very special merch. So I don't know if you want to save a little bit of money for then. I will let you off if you want to save some money for some very limited merch. There's probably only going to be about 5 of these things that I am making for very limited merch for February. So keep an eye out for that. Anything else I need to tell you? Next week, there will not be a Friday stream, if only because work is very, very busy right now. And they want me in for a lot of it, and I'm just like, sure, I'll just get some extra money today so I can stream more later. Yay! So we're just sacrificing one stream. Only one. Other than that, I think we're okay. I need to do the exclusive stream hasn't happened this month. It's usually the first Thursday, but obviously the first Thursday was the second, and it's a bit iffy. So, and it might not be next week due to not having a Friday, because I'd rather have like 4 public streams rather than 3 public streams and a thingy. So probably the 16th we will have our exclusive streams. So if you want to get into the membership or the Patreon to get access to this month's exclusive stream, you will need to get in there before the 16th. Other than that, I think that is really all I've got for you. I will see you tomorrow. We're going to D&D it again. We're going back to the adventures of the Warlock of Chat. If you would like to tune in and be a patron of my D&D character as we take on some pirates who are doing some shady shit, who may have a cleric that I worked with captured and are doing some kind of ritual, we don't know what yet, then join me tomorrow for more adventures with the Warlock of Chat. But until then, I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Brownie Rosemith, Live in the Forbidden Library. Goodbye.